Next, our speaker is Travis Stringer. He's the president and CEO of Forum Group. He'll provide an update on phase one of the Starland Village project and share details on the proposed rehabilitation of the historic church partial for phase two. Thank you for coming, Travis.
Appreciate it. Hi, everybody. Thank you for the time tonight. I've obviously met a lot of you guys over the years, a lot of new faces as well. Quick summary of who we are for those who haven't met me or don't know much about us other than the high-profile project that everybody talks about. We are third-generation family business. We're going on 47 years. My grandmother started it. I'm now the third generation of the business. We have been invested from Miami all the way through to Charleston. So Florida, Georgia, South Carolina. We've been invested in Savannah for the last 27 years. I've lived in this neighborhood for the last 10. We're going on 11 years. So I've seen a lot of the transition happen since 2014, 2015 to now. We've been a part of it. We also own a number of other properties in this neighborhood, Bull Street, and downtown, aside from the project that we're going to talk about today. This is a project, obviously, that we've started and been in for a very long time. I know there's a lot of fatigue on the project. The first phase is the part that we're under construction right now. It's gone through a lot of hardships over the years, a lot of events have taken place, a lot of changes. We've had, and some people in this room have been in all of those meetings, a ton of meetings with this neighborhood, and others about that project. The part that we're on right now that you see is two buildings. What we reference them as is north and south. North is the building that's north of 38th Street, just to about 37th, and then the south building is south of the church to right before the architectural office on the corner of 39th Street. These are properties that we bought over a number of years in 2016, 17, 18. The north building and the south building are both primarily apartments. So we have 116 apartments, 59 units in the north building, 57 units in the south building. On the north building, those ground floor entries are all apartment entries if you walk by the building and you're looking at them. On the south building, we have a mix of artist studio spaces. We have 7 of them. They range in size from 180, 200 square feet. I think our biggest one's like 450. And then we have a commercial space on the very south corner. Our hope is to add some more local businesses that are either in Savannah, we're actually talking to a few right now, that are expanding, want to be in this neighborhood. That's the goal for that space. In addition to that, and Sky, you're here, we connected, we need to reconnect. I saw your message. Murals have been a big part of this project from the beginning. Art in this neighborhood has been a big part of how we connect this project. We have what we are referencing as an artist alley between the south building and the church. That's part of the separation of it. We actually have mural wall installations that are there for the purpose of interchangeable murals over a period of time. We also have some murals on part of the south building towers that we'll also want to incorporate. So in the future, once this project's done, we'll be back here talking with hopefully local artists and presenting those murals for approval. We're completion time frame. We're expecting both buildings to be finished right now, end of April next year. We'll be starting pre-leasing in February-ish time frame. We've had a lot of setbacks from Georgia Power to City of Savannah, the streets and so forth. We've done a lot of improvements to the neighborhood as part of this project, and DeSoto Avenue. But now we don't have any more setbacks. This project is full steam ahead. We are going to hit that date. Sooner than those completion, that sidewalk will be going in and we'll be opening it back up. I know that's been a big issue and concern for people. So obviously as we get closer and we progress through and get out of the holidays, we'll give additional updates to progress to that project. And we'll continue to do so obviously through the neighborhood board and so forth. I'm sure we'll be having more of these meetings. In addition to that project, we also have what's really the centerpiece of this project, and the reason we bought this property in the very beginning was the historic stone church. In the very early days, we threw some events in there, some neighborhood events that took place on the inside. If you've been inside that building, it's really quite impressive. So we have 36-foot ceilings to the top in the main entry space. 32-foot, where the stone columns that were added actually in the 50s were put in. And there's a lot of different eras of architecture in that building aside from the granite stone and the stained glass. Originally with this project, we had an event space for 900 people planned. COVID happened, as you all know, a lot of other things happened. In 22, we had meetings about changes to the overall project, and through those changes, we eliminated the entire use of an event space in our zoning ordinance for this project. That was done from both neighborhood aspect, but also a desire to remove a parking structure that we had on our back surface parking lot behind that church building. That reduced that parking, obviously with 900 space venue, lots of parking demand that you need. And so over the years we've been doing this, we have been doing a lot of studying. We've spent tens of thousands of dollars, actually hundreds of thousands of dollars, trying to figure out what is the right thing to do with that building. What we're bringing today as an idea is not something that we just cooked up because the hotel overlay has started its process that's been going on, and we're like, hey, we gotta get ahead of it. It's something that has actually been on our mind for a few years before this idea came up. And we've determined that the best way for us to preserve this historic building, preserve that main space that I just spoke about, is to do a boutique hotel. Now, we're doing quite a different process than what Edward was talking about earlier, where you guys come in at the end. So we haven't submitted anything. I actually haven't even really sat down with Edward and had any staff meetings about this. We're very early in this planning process, let's say, for the redevelopment of this building. And so today, we're here simply to propose that this is what we have determined as a feasible route. It's something that we understand from a neighborhood perspective. Development in general is, there's a lot of care that goes into what does come into this neighborhood. Like I said, we've lived in this neighborhood for 10 years now, going on 11. And I know the only way to do this project, just like when we started the first time, was to start with a meeting like this and continue it. And so we're not planning to submit anything to MPC until we've gone through the process with the neighborhood to determine what can be done, the acceptability of it, and hopefully work in tandem through charrettes and other things to develop a project in this specific location within the footprint of an existing historic building to be able to develop a small hotel. I know that's right now a very scary thing. I also want to share with you, living in this neighborhood, I am a proponent of this hotel overlay district. So I don't want hotels all over the neighborhood. I don't want a hotel next to my house. But there are places, in our opinion, and that's probably where we differ, where I think if done appropriately and done right, and with communication with the neighborhood, it can be successful. I do think that there is demand from people who also come to visit residents in this neighborhood, come to visit the businesses neighborhood, looking for a quality project like this. And that's our opinion, and we're hoping that from today we can work together to figure that out and prevent this building from continuing to fall into this water. So, appreciate your time.
Thank you, Travis. Thank you. So now we're going to move into our question and answer session. If there are any questions, go ahead and bring those up now and drop those off at the table. Anyone that has some of those, please bring those up. I do also want to take a moment just to say thank you again to everyone for coming tonight. All of our audience members, all of our community members, our city officials, and our featured speakers. All of these gentlemen here tonight, I know, came into a room that they knew was going to be a little bit heated, and I appreciate them doing that. That took a lot of, of gumption to do that, and we do really appreciate it. As your president, I will tell you this. All of these have been individuals, and many other individuals approach us at all times to come and seek a dialogue with all of you guys. And our job here at the TSNA is just to facilitate that dialogue with you guys and with them. So I thank you for all coming, and we're going to move into the questions. I just ask that during the question period, we just try to keep it respectful, and we will now dive in. Do we have the first questions ready, Linda, or do we need a little bit more time? All right, we're going to start out with a question for Ed Morrow, and the way this is going to work, we're going to move through our featured speakers, so we'll get one question for Edward Morrow, then we're going to move to the next, and we'll just keep rotating like that. So it's all equally divided. So this one is for Ed Morrow. The question says, what is the criteria used to determine someone's suitability or qualification for being on the MPC board? Ed?
I didn't write that one. That one wasn't me. My question is, can I get MPC presentation? I didn't write that one, y'all. Oh, I mean, I wanted to, but I was told not to write that. So I'm actually going to ask Ed comes that when we go
Ed, let him answer the question, please.
Honestly, I just knew that was about to say, what's the appropriateness criteria for a rezoning or a special use or something, because there's text for that. In all honesty, the only thing I can say about the appointments to the board, they are just that, they are appointments. There's a lengthy application that you will go to the city or county's website, and you will express your interest in becoming a member of one of many boards, not just the planning commission, but there are dozens of boards between the city and the county, and it often takes people years to be selected. Interestingly, and I'm relatively new here, I started here in May of 2023 in Georgia, but I'm new to Savannah, and so I can say it's interesting that a lot of the same people do continually appear on the board. I genuinely cannot say to you what I feel the qualifications are, though I will say many folks that I deal with on the board, the majority of them do have some relationship to built environment professions. They are people who are either city employees, they were people who are developers, they are concerned citizens. Some of our most excellent and newest board members that I've had the opportunity to work with, they are concerned citizens. When I tell you, they ask phenomenal questions. Some of you I will occasionally say, hey, you need to run for office, or hey, you need to try and be on this board. So I'll just say it's a wide range of people, and they have a variety of backgrounds. I'm not quite sure if qualification is the word. They are appointed by your duly elected officials.
Good to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Edward. I appreciate that.
Good question.
So now we're going to move on to a question for Travis Stringer from the Forum Group. This question says, my father used to say that the best predictor of the future behavior is the past behavior. Your letter indicated that you worked closely with the neighborhood to build a neighborhood-friendly hotel, but you haven't been a just neighbor. Parking, communication, etc. How can we believe that you are negotiating in good faith? I believe. Travis?
So, not really quite sure of the question, but I think I know how to answer it. So, obviously earlier I said that we've had a number of meetings on this project. This is now an 8th year, okay? And I don't mean 8th year of construction, I mean 8th year as we bought the property. A lot of people that I've seen here were in some of those meetings. We must have had at least 7 or 8 over the initial parts of it to get to the initial approval. I worked heavily with the board. I sat, and we used to do them in this room. We used to do them at the fire station. That's where most of the meetings were held. This project wasn't complete at that time. In 22, when we were making revisions to it, we had many conversations with the board, other board members too at that time, and I had a lot of meetings in here. The second iteration of when we had meetings about revisions to this project were in this room. So,
It's on YouTube.
what?
It's on YouTube if you want to check it out.
There you go. It's on YouTube. I don't think we had any other ones filmed in the beginning, but, so I think my answer to your question is, if you've been a part of this project, are there things that maybe we didn't get communication every single month or every single week, every part of the process and so forth? No, we've been doing a lot of work trying to get things done, and progress it forward so that we can get sidewalks open and get things done. But we had a ton of meetings, a lot more meetings, especially at that time, than any other developer in this neighborhood did. And yes, my project was more maybe influential or impactful and so forth, and I still think it is gonna have a positive impact if we really get it done, and I'm excited for when it is done. But if you watch the process, I sat in more meetings and had more discussions and presentations with a lot of people in this neighborhood as a group like this and individually than most do. And I think that alone should show, especially with the fact that we didn't put this project up on the NPC before this hotel overlay got approved, just so that we get grandfathered in. I'm sitting here today in the early phases, going the opposite of the typical process developers do, trying to just have a conversation. So hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you, Travis. So up next, we have a question for Michael Condon. This question says, previous permits and plans are all referring to apartment construction. When did your plan change to a hotel, and why did you not apply for the special use permit then?
Good question. The building permit we have from 2023 says hotel motel on it. So from the beginning, it was a hotel motel. I'm gonna sound stupid now when I tell you this. I didn't know that we needed the permission for the additional 6 rooms. We have 15 rooms by default. And so, unfortunately, when the building department approved my plan, they didn't tell me that I was supposed to do this, so we would have done it 2.5 years ago. So, that's the answer.
Thank you, Michael. So next up, we have a question for Jeff Notrika. This question says, why do we have documents showing you want to do more than parking? Seems you want to have a hotel, is that correct?
I'm not really sure what you're talking about. We have 3 different special use permits that have been applied for. 2 of them for parking special use permits, which we discussed. And then I've got, I believe Jerome Elders here, has applied on behalf for a special use permit for a hotel at 2505 Abercorn, which is the 1-acre site that borders on a lane, train tracks, Abercorn, and Drayton Street. And basically, there's no residences anywhere that borders in that area.
Except me, I'm over there.
Where are you?
Residences over there.
Where are you?
41st Street. East
41st.
The 0 block of East 41st certainly has
Right,
residences.
so this is at 43rd. So it's 2 blocks away.
The bank building, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
No, it's across the street.
Where across the street are you?
I'm sort of across from where the Sterling Cafe is. That's 41st Street.
It's right there.
It's right there. It's right there. It's right there on a residential street. Yes, you are.
I do not read that as a residential street.
Well, tell me.
There's no residences on,
You're
on that
absolutely
side.
wrong. Guarantee you.
You don't know where you live.
There's no,
Where the photo?
do we have a, yeah, let's pull up the
On
maps.
Drayton, 0 block of 41st at Drayton, that's residential.
Let's pull
I
up the
mean,
map.
it's zoned commercial, but there are all those houses there where people.
This is a different block.
No. It's Drayton.
2505 Abercorn.
41st.
Let's see how it's better than people.
It's right where the bank is. You've got the Architecture firm on the corner,
Yep.
right, 41st in Drayton. Right, so all of those other buildings on that street
Our homes.
are homes.
Are you speaking of these?
Yes.
I understand, but it's also separated by a one-way street. That's, I was referring
Well, that doesn't affect them at all.
There are no residences on this.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you guys, that doesn't affect them at all.
Stop.
You're separated by your streets.
It's not ridiculous at all. What are these zones?
I don't even know the neighborhood where you're trying to build something, honestly.
Commercially zoned and used for both, if I recall, looking at the map, so.
Correct.
On the other side of Drayton, there are two houses.
Absolutely, there are also.
24 East Victory Drive.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna move on. We have a lot of questions here, so we're gonna move on. No disrespect to the audience. We're gonna move to a question for, I believe that went to Jeff, so we're now back at the beginning, and we're gonna go to, this question in particular is for both, well, I'm gonna save that one till the end, because we have a couple that are for all the speakers. So again, we're going to go back to Travis Stringer. And Travis, this question says, have you spoken with Art Southeast? They are your neighbor at 2301 Bull Street and also provide under market value studio space for artists. How do you plan to collaborate with them?
2301. That would be, is that the brick building? That's right across 39 to the south? And it's art, no, we had not put one up.
It's a nonprofit. It's an local arts nonprofit. Are you interested in collaborating with local nonprofits?
Would love to. We actually, we donate to a lot of local nonprofits, actually. So we are very open to it.
I'm just going to relocate so we don't have to do so much back and forth.
There we go, that's right.
Jess said she warmed the seat up for me. I'm very appreciative of that because I'm freezing. I don't know about anybody else. Should have worn my vest. So I got my order a little bit out of ordinary order here, but I believe up next will be Michael Condon. So Michael, this question's for you, and it says, what is the difference in number of units between how many units you can have by right versus what you are asking for your hotel or inn?
By right, we can have 15. So we're asking for an additional 6 units. We have parking to accommodate all the units. There's 22 parking spaces in the back and on the side. And so 6 additional units we're asking.
Does that accommodate the double beds that you have? The beds or the rooms?
That's a great point too.
We do need to keep this moving, but if you do have a follow-up question, we still do have slips, and I will permit you to write that down and submit it up here, and I'll add it to Michael's file. Thank you so much. All right, so we have up next, we're going to do, let's see. Yeah, we should have Jeff Notrika up next. Where's my Jeff Notrika? Do we have another one for Jeff? Oh, we only have one more for Jeff. I see it right here. Okay, so this person wrote very lightly, so forgive me. There is already a paid parking at the old bank, Drayton and Abercorn. What are you intending to change? Is the current parking lot legal? Question mark.
Yeah, that's a great question. The parking lot is legally, as it was built, conforming to the city standards. In order to charge for parking, you've got to get this special use permit. And the city notified us of that, and that's when I applied for this.
Thank you so much. And now we're just gonna, that was the last we have a couple questions for everyone. I'm gonna save those to the end, and then we'll just let all speakers respond to those. But we're gonna switch back and forth now between Travis Stringer and Michael Condon. So we'll go first, someone in the Travis Stringer file. Travis, is there no parking on site, question mark, for the church? How does that help with parking? You stopped a venue for parking issues. How does a hotel help that?
So, we didn't stop an event venue for parking issues. We actually had 170 parking spaces at the time of that project with the parking structure behind the church. We eliminated that. That eliminated or added parking. That also in tandem eliminated the event venue, but they didn't go hand in hand. We eliminated them both separately but together. The other question with the parking, so, like I mentioned, we own a few other properties in the area too, across the street, catty corner from this. We actually have a special use approval that we got for a remote parking lot previously. We did not need it. We added it, and it gave us additional parking to the project at the time that the revisions were happening in 22, 23. And then we also have another 50 spaces. Some of those 50 are being used for tenants in our building that we've allocated to them, and for that building adjacent to us. This is all on 40th. And so we'll be able to provide, and we're not asking for a variance, we're not gonna show up asking for a variance, we're gonna provide all the required off-street parking for this proposed hotel project, but really for any project that ends up happening in that, we are gonna make sure that we have off-street parking for it.
Valet or self-serve on 40th Street?
Good question.
For what, right now? Right now it's not.
The lot.
So-
Valet
so-
or self-serve parking for your hotel?
Both,
You're gonna do valet and self-serve?
definitely.
All right.
How many total parking spaces will there be?
Well, until we know exactly how many rooms we can do and what type of project we're doing, it would be hard to tell you that. But what I can say is whatever our requirement is, we're gonna meet 100% of that requirement off-street.
But you have parking spaces already, right?
Correct. We had
How
to.
many do you have now?
Well, technically, we're in control of 200 spaces between the three properties, and of those 200, we have the 117 that are allocated to the current phase one, and then the remaining would be between the building that's adjacent to our 40th Street lot. That only requires 12 for a recent MPC process and traveling to went through. So the math on that's what, another 80?
There are like 10 rooms on
Thank you so much. We have to keep moving through these questions. We have a lot of them. So we do have one question here for Edward Morrow, who someone was just asking about a copy of the MPC presentation. I just wanted to let you know, I talked to Ed just now, and Ed said he's happy to provide a copy of that. We'll post it on our website.
Awesome.
Okay?
It will make understanding the process a lot easier if you have that information transparency available, because that's a big problem in the city, is lack of transparent information available and easy to find. So that's why I was asking, so that if somebody wanted to see it, they understand the process. And it was a beautiful slide deck, by the way. It broke it down really simply. So thank you. I just wanted to be able to reference that later.
Thanks. Edward said thank you. For folks that might not have been able to hear that. And thank you so much for your question. So we're going to move right along, and we're going to now go back to Michael Condon. So this question from Michael says, why now when you have owned it for years?
We've been working on the project since 2023. We were unaware of this step in the application process, or would have had that done back in 2023. These things take a long time, even in a small building like this. For example, the sprinkler system takes about 1.5 years to get done. It sounds ridiculous, it is ridiculous, but that's just the way it is. There's really only about 4 vendors here in the city that do it. By the time you get your plan, which takes about 6 months, and then you get it scheduled, you get it installed, and then you wait 3 or 4 months for an inspection. That's how these things sort of slide along. Your expectation is you're gonna do a project that's gonna take you 2 years, and 3.5 years later, it's in the middle.
Thank you. And so now the next question is for Travis Stringer. Travis, this question says, it seems like you're saying you can only make money if your project, on your project, if you make a hotel. Why is it the neighborhood, why is it the neighborhood, why is it the neighborhood's job to, bail out a bad investment?
Oh!
Well, it hasn't been a bad investment, so I'm not getting bailed out. And like I mentioned earlier, what we determined here is not that we can't make money on a project. What we determined here is that we would be able to successfully preserve all of the key aspects of that building and be able to pay for it through that proposed project.
Thank you. So now the next question is for Michael Condon. Michael, this question says, how many parking spots do you have on site? And what percentage of visitors do you think will need parking at your hotel?
There are currently 22 parking spaces for 21 rooms. We're required to have 21 parking spaces. As I have read, it's something in the order of 80% of people who show up bring a car, 20% of people don't. That's where the idea of 1 for 1 comes from, where you would have an extra amount of parking. We don't expect that, because we don't have a restaurant, we don't have a bar, we don't expect anybody that's going to be arriving as friends visiting or this type of thing to use any of the additional spaces. We think we've got ample, and we've met all the requirements. There's no variance required or anything.
All right, thank you so much. This next question is for Travis Stringer. Travis, this individual asks, off-street parking for 40 to 50 rooms, question mark. Is your grandmother still holding a seat with Savannah? And it looks like they put politically, but then crossed it out, so I don't know what else you would think. So I'm putting it there for context.
No, she's been retired for many, many years, doesn't even live in Savannah anymore. And then for off-street parking, what was your question?
It just said 40 to 50 rooms, question mark.
Yeah,
Off-street parking.
got it. So we would have to provide 1 parking space by ordinance for every room that we would essentially get approved, if approved.
Thank you. So the next one's for Michael Condon. How do you stop it from being a party house, quotes, exactly? Will someone be there 24/7? If not, what hours?
It's a lot easier to stop it from being a party house when it's not a party house. You know, hotel is not the type of space that people, you know, in other words, if you have a 5-bedroom house and 20 people show up, party. If you have individual bedrooms and you've got different guests who are coming to stay, I don't know exactly where they would host the party. You know, it's a hotel. There's no function room, there's no bar, there's no restaurant. So,
Have you ever been to a hotel?
I think it's pretty easy to prevent it from happening. There is staff that will be there. We're not planning on having 24-hour staff. The place is too small for that. We'll have full-time staff there during normal business hours. But it doesn't make sense to have people there at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning if we don't need them there. These are good questions, but
And where will the employees park?
And St. Patrick's Day when
You guys, we can't do the yelling, we can't do the yelling. We just
Please,
can't.
Please let's not have yelling from the audience. That was the point of the question cards. Now, we do still have, more questions to go through. So if you'd like to fill out a question card, if some answer prompts a follow-up question, let's please fill one out and bring it up and drop it off. I think there's plenty of sheets of paper still available. So now we're going to skip back over to a question for Travis Stringer. So Travis, this question says, are you aware of how disruptive the construction has been to neighboring locally owned businesses? Can your construction crews park somewhere else?
So I'd love to meet with whoever wrote that question. Yes, we are aware, and yes, we've had conversations with many of the people that live directly or own properties, because a lot of them are renters too. Both the renters and the owners of the properties behind the south building, and also Caddy Corner on 38th Street. So if you're one of the residents that live there or somewhere else too, please meet with us, because we have been talking with a lot of our neighbors, and if we haven't talked to you, I'd be happy to meet with you specifically, but also connect you with our superintendent, project manager on the job, because they also have contact information for a lot of our neighbors, and they do speak with them.
Thank you. So the next question is for Michael Condon. Michael, this is a follow-up on your presentation. It says your presentation said boutique hotel and fully staffed, but your application indicates a 21-room Airbnb with staff only from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Can you reconcile the two disparities for us? And this is a repeat question, so Michael has nothing to add to that. Okay, so we're going to move back to Travis Stringer. So Travis, this question says, are you open to discussing / being an affordable housing hero by allocating units in your building for workforce housing, choosing below market for the working poor? ? If yes, I would support your hotel.
So I'm assuming it's referencing phase one. That project wasn't put together as an affordable housing project. So we wouldn't be doing that conversion for that project. But there are a lot of entities, especially in the city of Savannah, that are trying to push more affordable housing, and we're happy to be a part of them. So we can be a part of it separate from that project.
Thank you. So now we're going to move to a question to Michael Condon. Michael, this individual asks, aside from profit, what other reason would you want to create a hotel? That's their first question. And then their second question is, what other use could you have in this space?
There are a number of uses you could have for the space, obviously. You could make an apartment building out of it, you could put office space. Obviously, there's a number of things you could do. At the end of the day, we wanted to preserve a historic building that we felt, a lot of character. These projects are tremendously expensive, and when all is said and done, they have to pay for themselves. That's just the reality. And so we did the math, and this was for our purposes, the best use of the property.
Thank you. So now this question is for Travis Stringer, and this is the last question for Travis at this point, and then we're going to go through a few for Michael, and then we'll do some for all. Travis, this question states, once the City Council votes to adopt the hotel development overlay, which reflects the community's clear desire to limit large-scale hotel projects, can we count on you to respect that decision? As neighbors, we hope you will honor the will of the community and support the protections we worked for, rather than continuing to pursue a hotel project that appears to offer primarily financial benefit to you. Do you intend to move forward in partnership with the neighborhood? ?
So, like it's been said multiple times, any development project has to make financial sense and has to make money for the investment, regardless. So, use doesn't apply there. We have a specific reason why, from just a financial feasibility, that we think it's a good approach. I was at the NPC, or it was not the specific one, that was the most latest, but I watched the whole thing on video as it was happening. And I've been a part of a lot of discussions leading up to it. You know, I read the, everything that went out with regards to the surveys. And I think that it was even said at the NPC meeting that with appropriate collaboration, in maybe the right spot, in the right type of building, they're done the right way, maybe there's an opportunity to allow for something to happen like this in our neighborhood. But we don't want it to happen all over the neighborhood. A lot of people don't want it to happen at all. And they want to have more control, which I agree with, where it forces neighborhood and community involvement in any project, but especially for this ordinance, the hotel development overlay. So we're coming here to see if there's an avenue to work with the neighborhood on it and have an open dialogue and figure out how to make a project that fits right and that can be accepted. So I know not everyone's gonna accept it or be a proponent of it. But my hope is that if we have an open dialogue, which is what I'm asking, maybe there's an openness to see if there is a path forward.
Thank you, Travis. So now we just have a number of well, I got a late breaking question here, okay. So now we have a number of questions for Michael Condon. So Michael, we'll read through these and you can just keep standing. I'll hand the microphone over to you for the first one. So Michael, this question says, why not renovate Habersham to its original multifamily use, given our shortage of housing units?
You can't make the money.
It's not a bad question. The reality of the thing is that the idea of it was originally built as 6 units, 6 gigantic units, but 6 units nonetheless. Then the right-hand side of the building was added at some point. I'm not entirely certain when that was. We can't seem to find out when. But I would suggest sometime in the 60s or the 70s, possibly when it was converted into a school. The building is not ideally laid out to be an apartment building, in fairness. So to be able to build the number of units that you would need to build in there for the building to pay for itself, just simply wouldn't work.
All right, Michael. Here's the next question for Michael. Michael, this individual asks, if the hotel permit is denied, are you seeking to build some other type of multi-unit housing, possibly for SCAD students?
If the hotel piece of the thing is denied, we'll just continue with 15 units.
Thank you, Michael. And the next question here, actually, this is a group question, so let me put that in the group question pile. This is the next to last question for you. So this one says, will the Habersham, this has already been asked. There's several questions on here. Does the owner have any hotel experience? Who will be running the hotel?
We don't own hotels. We do have experience in the Airbnb segment. We're going to hire a manager to run the hotel who has hotel experience.
Another question from the same individual says, some rooms seem to have 2 beds. If 2 couples share a room, is there enough parking for multiple people?
The city has a requirement for 1 parking space per unit, and so we're able to meet that 1 parking space per unit.
Another question from the same individual. Are there actual plans drawn for the interiors and exteriors beyond what you've shared? They use the word conceptual.
If you're talking about the renderings for the designs of the room and so on, no.
This next question says, the parking lot floods in the southeast corner. How will this be resolved?
I've never seen the parking lot flood, but I'll check on it the next time it rains so we can see what the story is. It's in an ex-flood zone, so I've been to that building hundreds of times. So I'd be happy to talk to whoever wrote the question so that you can bring that to my attention.
All right, and the last question from this individual says, will the hotel have an elevator to reach all floors?
Unfortunately, originally we were gonna have an elevator, but to fit the elevator would have required us to build outside of the existing roof structure, which would look like some ridiculous chimney or something coming out of the roof. So we decided that we wouldn't do it because we didn't want to change the design and character of the original building.
Michael, the last question here that I have for now for you is this a proposed hotel or STVR? Aren't we at the maximum percentage of non-owner occupied STVRs? Doesn't that, what does that say? Isn't that a different issue?
It's a hotel. The STVR issue is a different issue.
All right, so looks like we had just a couple more come in for you right now. So Michael, this one says, would you consider a never too small concept for your project to make it a multiple housing complex? Happy to explain / discuss further, so this individual must be willing to have a dialogue with you after the meeting.
I'd be happy to talk to you about it maybe for a different project. This building is about 75% finished. Because very little gets done on the outside of the building, most people have not noticed all the work that was done on the inside. So at this point, there's no real opportunity for us to transition.
I'm sorry, Michael, but one more. Are you willing to work with the community for staffing hours? I believe they're asking about adjusting from what you'd said previously.
I'm always happy to talk to people, and so I'm willing to have a conversation. There's a practical aspect to it, and so from our perspective, it's not something that we were receptive to having a person sitting at a front desk at 3 o'clock in the morning when there's going to be nobody there.
Thank you, Michael. That's all for now. I do have a few questions for all the speakers, but before I get to that, I have one question that was just submitted for Ed Morrow at the MPC. Ed, this question says, we have seen the downtown quickly transformed from community center to museum / shopping mall with the type of hotel development. How can we trust a single exception hotel in our neighborhood without having the same result?
So that's a really good point. If you know me, you know I'm a fairly reflective person. We're in the process of updating the comprehensive plan, and so we're thinking a lot about kind of the economic base of what goes on here. And I would say that the economic activity that you're seeing downtown is fundamentally different than what you're seeing here. Savannah kind of is what it is, so it's not a whole different discussion. But I can understand your concern, but in truth, with specific regard to hotels, there's a character that is very well established here, and there's a certain scale of development that, for better or worse, you're just not going to see here. I hate to say it, and I can fully understand your concern with things like the large office building that came across from Forsyth Park, which again was kind of a different project. But fundamentally speaking, what you're seeing in this part of town, the bones are what they are. This girl's got some age on her, if that makes sense. And so a lot of the type of development that you would want to see elsewhere, it has to go somewhere else. It can't really come here. And so just from our position as staff, attempting to sort of accommodate super large scale development, it is challenging. I'm not going to lie to you, number one. So that's the first thing I'd say. The thing that you have here is the historic character. It is going to continue to be, to a great extent, what it is, right? And so I think with the hotel overlay as it was proposed from the city's perspective with the additions of staff, it was to say, in all honesty, there is a size of hotel that is appropriate that would continue to fit within this context, and it would continue gracefully the trajectory that I think we're seeing in this kind of area. And I stand by that. What I can say is, I'm not quite sure that the lack of addressing the STDR situation, I know it's a thing that nobody really seems to want to address here, that's a fundamental flaw in what we're seeing here. We need to let hotels and transient living accommodations be transient living situations, and we need to let houses be houses. I do think that there's a place for people to have STDRs. I fully understand why the vast majority of everyone here might be interested in having one. That much is evident. It's not about keeping anybody out of kind of the development opportunity. It's not that. But it's just to understand what it does to kind of distort our housing market in particular, to kind of distort. Just because it's an STDR doesn't mean that the local business owners aren't going to come and establish the same, Starbucks or whatever. Maybe not Starbucks in particular, but you're going to start to get a kind of business that caters to a different person other than your resident. So you're still seeing the distortions because you're having transient guests living in these areas. And so I'm not trying to get too, I want you to understand there's a fundamental thing that is not being addressed here. And you can look at the hotel overlay as a win, but you're still not addressing something else that is a problem. So I would just say that. I don't necessarily think hotels are the problem. Hotels at an appropriate scale, particularly for preserving historic buildings. If you value history, I hate to say it, the vast majority of you, if you bought a home, if you built something, if you've invested in a child going to college, whatever the case may be, you've had a large purchase, you understand financing. Financing is tough. People don't just do it, and it involves a certain amount of risk. So anyway, I'll just say, I think there are some unconsidered factors. If you want to see your community continue to, vital, to grow, to introduce new people that do look like what you'd like to see and participate in the kinds of things you'd like to see, there's a trajectory that I think can be supported with the right kind of development of any kind. We're not just talking about hotels. Everything has a place. This is kind of a garden, if you will. You don't need to have, monoculture. You need to have a variety. So I would just encourage you all to think about that.
I agree with Edward on this. And actually, we have Ryan Madsen sitting here who started this whole process with me about 3 years ago over a beer, I think. And when we talked about it then, it was always our intention to start at the top of the lodging food chain and work our way down at re-regulating things and doing it better for our neighborhood. So we started at the top of hotels. We did not think it was going to take us 3 years to get to the finish line on the hotel development overlay process. So we very much would like to go work down the ladder and go to inns and STVRs, et cetera, but we started at the top with hotels.
Thank you, Jason. And for what it's worth, I just say I also agree with those comments as well. I do think there's a place for everything. So now we're going to move to questions for all of our speakers. And we have 3 different questions here. That's our last 3 questions. This is for everyone, and it says, how will the expansion of hotels or boutique hotels disrupt the landmark historic district recognition at the city? And then there's a second part to this, which is, how are residents being considered and their lives before development? Meaning, are the interests of residents being considered or priced out of their, what's the symbol? I've been trying to figure this out. Priced out of their communities or uprooted.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And is there anything you would like to add, ma'am? Since I didn't want to butcher your question, I'm sorry if I did.
You did a good job.
Okay, thank you so much. So this is for everyone, so who would like to take it first, or does anyone have anything they would like to respond to?
So I was having a hard time understanding, but I think I got the gist, so I might ask you to rephrase some things. So, I think we'll start at the historic district and kind of work our way down to what we're trying to prevent and slow down, or however you want to put it. And I have an issue with this too, personally. I think that we have grown a liking to approving way too many hotels downtown. And actually in a way where we would prioritize, at least from what you see in action, not necessarily what's said, but prioritize a hotel approval with 100 rooms than 150 apartments on the same site. And I think that some of those approvals, which has resulted in a lot of hotels being built, and because of ordinance things and certain incentives that haven't been given to other types of uses, have caused the only thing viable financially to be built down there is hotels. And as a result, businesses are moving out, office buildings are getting converted, there's only type of condos that are being built or housing are $2-3 million. And there's not a lot of, let's call it from my perspective, residential being built down there at scale. Now, on the outskirts, you've seen it, it's slowed down a lot. There's not a lot in the works to be developed over the next few years, at least as far as permitting and under construction right now from a residential standpoint. So I think that has led a lot to that change. I think what you guys are doing right now and what the community's doing and what the perspective that's being talked about tonight and going forward is saying, hey, let's stop all that, because right now, even though there is a special use process that has to go through neighborhood and has to go through city council, it's not enough restrictive that we could find this getting out of our hands, right? So I think that is a good thing, because like I said, I don't want a hotel by my house either. I do believe, though, that there are appropriate corridors. I don't think Barnard, Jefferson, Abercorn, Haversham, really anything outside of the east and west of Drayton and Whitaker is really appropriate for a hotel. I don't even agree with MLK or Montgomery being appropriate. I think that corridor actually is appropriate for more residential, which is needed in this neighborhood. And that's really the only corridor that you could bring a lot of density in, which is why that overlay was done, 6-7 years ago. You saw some projects come in. So I think there are appropriate places to do it. I think doing a brand new ground up 150 room hotel is not a good idea. I think 75 rooms is too much. We can debate what's appropriate. I think doing it within an existing historic structure or existing footprint or a part of a mixed use project, things that were put into some of the proposals from the city and some room size caps are all good things, right, to control it. And so I think that if you do it that way, you can see positive things happen. I don't think hotel development is what's going to cause some of the problems that you're concerned about in this neighborhood. I actually think the lack of more development from a standpoint of residential, the lack of more density, the lack of more housing being built, and all of that is a natural issue that exists across all of Savannah, especially in this neighborhood, that is going to cause housing costs to go up, period. We need more housing built. That can be done in all kinds of ways. Duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, 20-unit buildings, 50-unit buildings, 100-unit buildings, up to the planning staff to figure out the right place to put all that. But unless we get more of that, no matter what gets built, housing costs in this neighborhood are going to go up. And the other issue from a parking standpoint, which is just, in my opinion, a neighborhood flaw. We're not like a lot of the other neighborhoods. We don't have lanes on all of our streets. As part of the zoning lanes, and some of this has changed from a development standard standpoint, but you can't park in front of your house. You can't pull off the street park in front of your house. Very few houses have that right. And so the only parking that anybody has for their homes is on the street. That's something that regardless of development, we could build 20 restaurants up and down Bull Street, it's gonna cause the same problem as a 200-room hotel. But we all want those restaurants and bars. And so there's a bigger fundamental parking issue that also needs to be addressed, and I think there's ways to do that. And so I don't look at it again as that single use as being the problem. I think controlling where it goes and the size is the right thing to do to prevent it from becoming what the historic districts become. But I also think we need to incentivize other types of development to make it more financially feasible. I'm sorry, I'm very passionate about that because I understand the problem.
Michael, did you want to respond to that question?
I don't think I can add anything.
Okay. So we have a question that was marked as for both, but it's actually two separate questions, one for Michael and one for Travis. Michael, the question that goes to you, I think you've already answered this, but I'll just give you an opportunity to confirm. It says, what happens if you don't get approved for your special use permit and you're limited to 16? That's perfect. It says, the person says 16, but yes, it's 15.
We'll continue the project with 15 units.
Thank you for your answer. And so, Travis, this part of the question is for you. It says, what about the following hotel occupancy numbers tells you that there's a demand for a hotel? And if you don't want a hotel next to you, why is it okay to put it next to us?
So, I'm gonna answer the second part first. I personally think that's an inappropriate statement, because I'm not saying that I don't want it next to me. What I'm saying is where my house is on Barnard is not an appropriate place to put a hotel. It is completely surrounded by single-family residences. Bull Street specifically is a corridor through the design of the growth of this neighborhood. Back when it first started with streetcars and all that, was to be a commercial corridor. It's where small businesses are supposed to be, where restaurants and bars and services and different things are appropriate to be. And so, in our opinion, we look at Bull Street as an appropriate corridor for that. So that doesn't mean that I want it next to you and not to me. It just means that Bull Street as a corridor is designed to be a commercial corridor. What was the first part?
The first part of it was falling hotel occupancy. What does that say to you as far as a future hotel property?
So, I think that the falling hotel occupancy for us, at least as of right now, and the growth of where Savannah's going, from just, not just a tourism standpoint, from every aspect, from businesses and so forth. We're looking ahead, we're not looking right now. We're not trying to do a 200-room hotel. We're trying to do a more unique, smaller one. We're trying to cater to the people who are trying to come to this neighborhood, who want to come and stay in this neighborhood, people who don't want to stay downtown, people who don't want to pay $700 a night to stay at the Perry Lane or $1,000 on the weekend. We want to provide to the people that want to be in a different neighborhood in another historic district and get opportunity to stay here. That's what we're catering to, and so we're not the local.
Michael, did you want to respond to the hotel demand occupancy and what you think about that, the fall in demand?
Just following up on what was just said, which is correct. This is a unique and special neighborhood. It's different from the downtown historic district or the Victorian district or whatever. And so that you obviously would be marketing to folks that are interested in staying in this walkable neighborhood.
And now this is the last question of the evening. So this is one that I really appreciate whoever asked this. I think it's a good one to end on. So this I'd like to hear the answer from everyone here. So we'll just go down the line, all three folks. How will you work within the hotel development overlay and in partnership with the neighborhood association to develop your proposed hotel products? Who would like to go first?
I think we're trying to take that first step now, right? First step is coming here and saying, hey, here's what we're thinking. Next step is coming back and saying, okay, here's the size of it, here's what we think we want to do, here's the details, here's a massing of what it looks like, here's how it fits within our project. Get feedback, guidance. What is it that you want to see in there, or what do you expect from the project? What are the biggest concerns and issues? Some of those have been brought up tonight, obviously. We were already aware of a lot of those. And we have that discussion of looking at outlining them and figuring out how to solve them, coming back to make another presentation, talking about how we're answering those, right? Coming to a point, like I even put in my letter, where we say, okay, here's what the project looks like, here's how we're doing everything, here's how we're addressing these problems, and here's what we're agreeing to do. Once we get to that point, we go on NBC board and we go through the whole process they have to do from a text amendment standpoint when this hotel development overlay gets approved, right? Where we have to go in and be very specific to this property on this project in this building and, essentially market from rent to rent. And then only based on that project that's proposed with that neighborhood agreement that, that amendment, we move forward.
It's okay, I follow. I'd be happy to work with the neighborhood association. You mentioned that we would be willing to do a good neighbor agreement so that we could work with the neighbors and show up at meetings like this and you know, let people know that we're good neighbors. You know, we've been here for almost 9 years now and have really worked hard to try and be good guys and you know, restore beautiful old homes and you know, improve neighborhoods and so on. There's houses in this neighborhood and other neighborhoods, the Victorian district and the Midtown district. You know, when we had done a significant amount of work over by what is now the Laundry Diner, and that's actually a project of ours. And so when the time came that we needed some folks that actually own the business, you know, the kids from Two Giants, and Liz needed our help to be able to get some things through. Because of the relationship we had with our neighbors in that neighborhood and the work that we've done and being involved in that neighborhood association, we had people show up at the meetings to say, we would like to support this because this guy does what he says he's going to do. He is a good neighbor. He is a guy that finishes jobs that he starts. He is a guy that follows through and listens to people and so on. And, you know, honestly, you guys don't know me from a stick of wood. I get that. You know, and I'm sure that it's fair and safe that you should question, and I think that's correct. But the only thing I can say is that I have a history of over 40 years of being in this business of doing the right thing. And I'm not gonna change. I'm gonna continue to do the right thing. And when the time comes, you know, whether we have 15 units or we have 21 units, you know, we'll still all be friends. And I'll come to the meetings and hopefully nobody will kick me out again. So, thank you.
Jeff, would you like an opportunity to respond? Okay. All right, well, so with that, I'm just gonna thank everyone for coming out. I wanna remind you of a couple key dates before we wrap up. So, coming up, we have a couple of events. So, let's see here. Let's see if I can get, here we go. So, just a reminder, try to stay involved with the TSNA coming up. We've got a couple of upcoming events here. So joining us in December for our 5th Neighbors Night Out. It's going to be a holiday themed event, so look forward to that. People seem to love the Neighbors Nights Out, and so please come and join us for that one. There'll be more details emailed out to you, so make sure you join the mailing list. And then also mark your calendars. Monday, January 19th at 6 p.m. is going to be our next TSNA membership meeting. Right here at Victory North, so you know where to find us, and that'll be after the holidays. And I just want to say again, thank you all for coming. We'd like to extend a special thank you to Victory North and to the Sexton and Sixby for all of the great food and everything else. There's our QR code again. If you'd like to join. Oh yes, I would like to remind everyone that we do have a litter pickup organized this Saturday. Would you guys like to add anything else to that? Any other details?
Start at 9 o'clock at Big Bum Bodega.
There you go.
Got the little picker-uppers and everything, so you don't need to get your hands gross.
That's
They
right.
open up all the trash. So, yeah, with coffee and bagels from Big Bum is providing those, so, yeah, please
We're
come
always-
help us make our neighborhood even more.
Yeah, we're always looking forward to that, and thank you to everyone that turns out for those. It's a big service to our neighborhood just to clean up all that litter. So with that, I'll say thank you all and appreciate it. Have a good night. Thank you for your patience with us.
That's right, I Well, that's why I hate it. that's why, David.
Just about to sound like it. Let me see what